Good afternoon and welcome to CompanyRoots. Today we're interviewing Mr. Carlos Velasco, the founder and CEO of Cacao de Colombia, a producer of premium chocolate that sources its cacao from smallholder farmers in Colombia's post-conflict regions. In doing this, the cacao farmers can improve the quality and productivity of their yields.
Cacao de Colombia has been in partnership with Acumen since 2015 within its agriculture sector. Mr. Velasco, it is a privilege and we are truly honored to be interviewing you today. My name is Sarish Jasti, and I am a freshman at the Wharton School, and I'm from Homedale, New Jersey.
My name is Raul Kawuru. I'm a rising junior at St. Paul's School in New Hampshire, and I'm the president of CompanyRoots. The first question that we always ask is, what are your own CompanyRoots, and how do they help you in shaping your ideas and becoming the person you are today?
Sorry, Rahul, could you repeat the question? The line was a little bit bad.
Sorry.
Sure.
What are your CompanyRoots and how did they help you in shaping your ideas and becoming the person you are today?
Why am I in CompanyRoots?
So what are the roots of your company? So how did you start it up?
What are your own personal roots and how did they help you become the person you are right now?
Sorry, I got confused with your company name.
Yeah.
I guess that's part of that's part of the point, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So my background professionally, before I started in cocoa, as Jacqueline Novograd's book mentions, was in coffee. So I worked for about 10 years for one of the largest rural NGOs in the world, called the Colombian Coffee Growers Federation, which has as a mission to improve the livelihood of Colombian coffee growers, which is a very large and important agri-sector in Colombia. A lot of families rely on coffee production. And it's a sector that has been focusing since its foundings in 1927 on quality, R&D, promotion. So the highest possible price can be achieved for a high quality product, and a high price can be paid to the producer as a result of that. I saw a huge opportunity to do something similar in the cocoa sector in Colombia, as opposed to coffee. Cocoa comes from this part of the world, right? Coffee originated in Ethiopia. Cocoa originated in the Amazon basin, nearby the border between Colombia and Ecuador. So right where we are right now. So I was working with specialty coffees, selling it around the world to specialty buyers. And it was, I started to get questions asked about Colombian cocoa. I didn't know anything about it. And when I researched a bit about this sector, it was surprising to realize that despite the fact that it had originated in our land, nobody in the world knew about our cocoa in the world. So I saw a huge opportunity to use all that knowledge that I had from the coffee sector and use it to develop the specialty cocoa sector, creating development in cocoa regions. So this is basically our route and how we started.
And it's incredible since you guys seem to be the first of your kind.
Yeah.
It's when we started, it was really early stage for the industry in Colombia. So we had to do a lot of work on the field, which we still do. Is very important part of what we do. But it took us few years to really get the kind of quality that we needed to start selling cocoa beans and making chocolates. Because we needed to build infrastructure and pretty much create a new business model, moving from commodity cocoa to specialty cocoa, right?
Yeah. So you are a social entrepreneur and you're tackling a very complex problem. Obviously, it's not one-dimensional at all. So how have you navigated the issue and how have you created a solution for it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's got, as you say, multiple dimensions. And probably the most important one is the human one, right? And is at the end, this is people you're working with, and we're not growing cocoa ourselves, right? So let's say the easy way out would have been, okay, we set up our own plantation and we do things the way we want, right? But the whole point about it was how we can, get all this cocoa that is being produced in different regions that is going to low quality, low price market, improve the quality, and bring better prices and development for these producers. So we needed to identify regions that had that potential, both because of the potential quality of the product, but also producers that had the willingness to co-work with us in developing that.
Right.
And something that's really important is also creating the right incentives so things are sustainable over time. So we focused on very high quality products that will guarantee that we could sell those products in high-end markets, and we could pay a higher price to the producer, because it wouldn't make sense that we ask the producers to do more work if we're going to pay at the end the same that the other buyers are paying, right? So we really needed to create the right set of incentives so this new market will be sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm assuming behind like your mission in Cacao de Colombia, there was obviously a great role model that transformed you. So who is your inspiration and mentor for your own success, and how did they impact you and develop your personal social impact roots?
Okay, more than a person, I mean, I can mention different people that have impacted me over my life and my career. But I would use again the example of coffee, right? And how I model Cacao de Colombia and what we're doing and what the Colombian Coffee Growers Federation has done for the coffee sector. Putting a lot of attention on R&D, right? We've got a lot of, there is no need for us to, as it happens in some cases, import cocoa from other regions to solve problems, right? We have all that available in our lands, and so we should be doing more research locally. We have to focus on quality, which has not been the case for the sector in Colombia. And at the end, we have to focus on bringing more opportunities and development for the cocoa growing regions. So I would say my model for our company, for a social enterprise, has definitely been the coffee sector in Colombia.
Yeah. Okay. So kind of following up on that, what is the specific process like for technical assistance and the environmental training you mentioned, which ensures that cocoa farmers have a increase in yield?
Okay, yield, it's very key element. And it's in many cases what people that look at sectors like cocoa try to approach first, right? And it's very intuitive that if you have, let's say 400 kilo per hectare farm, if you double that production, then you're going to double the producer's income, right?
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to do so if the cocoa that you're already producing is not making you any money, right? Let's say you cannot look at it always as just as an investment approach, right? That if you have gone to school and you say, okay, let's say I put X amount of money, double my production, it will be a terrific business, right? Who is not going to do it?
Yeah.
But that's not how you operate on a farm. If you've ever grown something on your land and you know that is not being profitable, why am I going to invest in something that is not being profitable for me, right? And it's just probably a waste of money. A lot of people would look at that way. So and that's why one of the reasons why we identify that despite all the millions of dollars that have been invested until, let's say, 2009, when we started in the cocoa sector in Colombia, there had been no increase in productivity or in prices for the producer, right? Yeah. It's like, how can that be possible?
Yeah.
And the short answer to that is they had been focusing only on, the final symptom, which was productivity, but they had not been addressing the real issues of the industry.
Right.
And is that the producers were not motivated by what they were doing because they were not being profitable with the farms.
Right.
So we said, okay, let's do a different approach. We will start a new market instead of buying the dry cocoa bean. And this is something that had been done in any other parts of the world. So we were not, reinventing the wheel. We were just applying things that had worked in other places. And setting up post-harvesting centers. So we could ferment and dry the cocoa beans in a controlled manner and improve the quality and have a consistent quality and be able to pay to the producer a higher price. So more producers will be interested in working with us because they were having less labor at their farm. They were saving at least a couple of weeks that the post-harvesting process takes. That was one thing, and they were receiving a higher price. So now producers have an incentive to increase their productivity and their production because they see this is a good business. So I think that was like the major, let's say, I wouldn't say obstacle, but the major challenge that we had to address, and in a way go not against, but present a new model. We had some early adopters in terms of not only of producers, but also of, we've worked throughout the years with a lot of foreign aid organizations, like USAID, for instance, that have now supported this model and is now the standard way of working in regions where you want to develop specialty cocos.
Yeah.
Right. So of course, when you need to implement this right approach, you need a very effective team. So what process did you go through when hiring? And right now, what process do you go through when hiring Cacao de Colombia's professionals? And what specific skills do you look for? And what is the overall company culture that you're trying to create?
Okay, that's a good question. So the key element for any hiring is not consistency, but there has to be an alignment. That was the word I was looking for, alignment in purpose, right? So the person that joins our team has to buy on the purpose that we're transforming the cacao industry in Colombia in order to create opportunities for cocoa growers. And there has to be different aspects in terms of, it's got to be someone that's entrepreneurial, right? We expect people to bring solutions, not problems, to the table. Of course, have a very strong ethic, and we're a quality-driven company, right? And this is something we never compromise, because and the quality is not only the quality of our products, but also the quality of the work that we do. So we look for people that, first of all, like what we do and want to be part of our team. And depending on the area that we're hiring, we will look for different skills and experience. We have teams that are on the field, that have to have the knowledge of cacao as an agri-product. We have people that work at the factory, and so they gotta have, we don't expect them to have knowledge in chocolate. As a matter of fact, none of our employees at the factory had ever worked at a chocolate factory before, because there are not many chocolate factories around where we are in Colombia. But they had some training in food processing, food safety, so they knew how to work at a food factory, and they learned from us the specifics on chocolate. We have a sales team, right? So that's key for any company, and you gotta have people with experience and motivation there. But at the end, if the purpose is shared, and the skills and the experience is qualified for the specific role, there should be a successful partnership between the company and the employee for a long time.
Yeah. So what steps would you say, would you advise to other business and nonprofit leaders to see people in kind of their true light and see past like their surface level ideas?
Could you, sorry, I didn't get the question well.
Sure. So what steps would you give to business and nonprofit leaders to see people in their true light? So to see past their
Okay.
official ideas.
That's always difficult, right? And it's, I mean, I've read different books about it, and I like one approach, and is that when you're hiring someone, um, don't do that hiring only you, right? But involve the people that will be working with that person in the process, and let them decide as well, and let them work together. In an interview, we all have been through interviews in our life. We always present the best part of ourselves, right? Our best person comes out of an interview, and if you only look into that, then there could be a high chance of making a mistake, which is important to understand. That is not only a mistake for the company, it's also a mistake for the person that is being hired in a position that is not suitable for him or her, right? Mm-hmm. It's an investment in time, in an important manner for companies. So hiring well, and becoming good at doing a good hiring, I think it's something you learn. Okay. And it's something that is very relevant. I mean, early on in an entrepreneurship, you cannot always afford to hire the people that are best for the job, right? You're an entrepreneur. I mean, you end up doing most of the things, and you start building up your team. But as you grow and you probably have more resources, you get an investor, you can afford people, then, I mean, those hires become really relevant for the success of your company. And, mm-hmm. and I will say again, look first for alignment in purpose. You can look at that by looking at the trajectory of the person, right? I think that's something that gives you some insight into that, and let that person again become part of the team even before you hire him or her. So you can have, and don't rush at hiring. That's something that we tend to do because we we might need someone for a position. Then we don't interview enough people, and then we hire someone that we think is good. But it's always more expensive and time consuming not doing it thoroughly. And at the end, companies are people, right? And if you don't build a good team, you're not going to have a successful company.
Right.
So how exactly did your partnership with Colombian begin? And so far, how has it helped develop your organization?
Acumen has been in Latin America for about 6 years. Mm-hmm. So they were looking for companies to invest. And we met randomly at a meeting of the agri sector. I pitched my idea, not to them, just to the meeting where we were. I mean, I wasn't looking for an investor either. So I think that's something good about this partnership. That we're not like desperate to get together. It just felt naturally nice that we could do. We could benefit each other very well from this partnership. They, by investing, and this is something that Acumen model is so powerful about. They in many cases invest in an idea and an entrepreneur, right? There has to be something tangible, of course. I mean, a proven concept, something that, I mean, it's not just a business plan, but there is something material. But still, it's a very early on project with a very high rate of I mean, a high probability of failure
Yeah.
when they invest. So they're taking a big risk. And for us, it has been, I mean, a great partnership because they brought, of course, the resources that we needed to grow. So we set up a new factory that has allowed us to, go into new markets, buy more cocoa beans from the producers we work with, but also they have brought a lot of knowledge and network to the company. So, Acumen, it's a very well connected and regarded company in the world. So we have access to a lot of people that we wouldn't have otherwise. So it's a partnership that I value very much indeed.
And it's also great to hear that when you were originally pitching to Acumen, you pitched it to like make an impact and not necessarily just to like get the investment, since you were like not knowing that they were there at the time.
Yeah.
Correct.
Interesting. So while reading Manifesto for a More Revolution, Jacqueline Novogratz talks about her trip with you to the indigenous Arhuaco people. So the situation with them was incredibly delicate. However, you managed to navigate a deal that helped both, Cacao de Colombia and them. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so the Arhuacos is a group of people that inhabit the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta on the northern part of Colombia. In this part of the world, cocoa has been grown for thousands of years. And the indigenous groups have had contact with cocoa for the big part of this time. But when we had the history of our part of the world was broken in two when the Spanish arrived in 1492, right? That completely changed. You can look at history before and after that specific moment in time. And that was the case, especially for native tribes, right? They were pushed out of their lands, persecuted, and one of the consequences of this is that they lost contact with some of their traditions. Cocoa grows on the lowlands, and as they were pushed out of their lowlands, they lost contact with cacao.
Yeah.
So the Arhuacos, they were not dealing with cacao as their ancestors did. And when we kind of found what they had on their land, and allow us to work with them in recovering something that was really important for the culture, which is really rare. I mean, they don't grant access to people easily to their land. So they saw in us a friend and partner that could help us with that goal, right? And that's how we approach it. We were really we had no idea at that time whether we really could build a business out of this. Business are important for a social entrepreneur because that's a way of making sure that things are sustainable, right? And it has to, be profitable and work for everyone. But in the beginning, it was really something driven out of curiosity and the willingness, the spirit to discover something kind of unique. And I partnered up with a Japanese person that had a lot of knowledge on cacao that I lacked. I knew more about coffee at that time. And when we visited their lands, we found, or she found, something that was really unique. And she said, yes, there is really an opportunity to do something great here. And so we created this relationship of equals that we value very much, because they have given us their friendship and allow us to enter the land. And we've learned so much from them in the way they relate to nature and this balance a very delicate balance that humans have to have with Mother Earth.
Yeah.
So it's if you ever have the opportunity to visit this part of the world, I encourage you to go to that region.
Definitely.
So, in terms of a long-term plan, how are you looking to scale Cacao de Colombia out and ultimately reach this long-term goal of achieving peace and ending Colombia's long history of conflict and poverty?
Yes, so Colombia has the potential in many regions to produce fine flavor specialty cocos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in order for that to happen, the market will have to develop more.
Yeah.
If you compare the coffee market to the cocoa market, coffee market is by far much more developed. You can find, all over the developed world and even the developing world, small coffee shops, that are buying specialty coffees. So it's already a trend and people value that, and you probably cannot have a bad tasting cup of coffee anymore because you're already used to good quality. In chocolate, the market is very different. It's a very concentrated market where you have very big players that are buying most of the beans and transforming them. But every day, more and more craft chocolate makers like ourselves are appearing and popping up because the demand is starting to grow as well.
Yeah.
So we intend, and our job will continue until in regions where we are, and that we enter new regions every year within Colombia, really develop their true potential. And we understand that it has to be done through volume. We cannot just by buying few kilos in a region pretend that we're going to transform the industry there. So we need to become a relevant player in these regions. And in order to do that, again, we need partners throughout the world that are, because we have two businesses. One where we sell specialty cocoa beans to other craft chocolate makers, and another one where we sell our own chocolate. But what we can make into chocolate is limited by our factory, and is limited by the demand we have our product. But if we partner with chocolate makers around the world, then we'll be able to sell specialty cocoa beans from Colombia to chocolate makers all over the world, and start, really creating this long-term impact in the communities, which we have started to see, and some regions have started to change their industry dynamics because our presence there. As we raise the quality, we promote the beans around the world, there will be more demand for that region. Prices will come up, which is great for the producers. And then there will be a shift from the commodity market into the specialty market. But again, we could do it only from the supply side. But if there is no demand, it won't be sustainable. So you have to be very careful to do it in a way where you don't create an oversupply of high quality beans that at the end the producer is not going to pay to get the right pay for it.
So before we move on to the last question, I just wanted to add a thought of my own. I find it very inspiring how you started at a very grassroots level, and you really focused on the producers, and you didn't try to overreach, but you tried to take it step by step and really try to understand every level of what you were doing. And I think that contributes a lot to why you're so successful right now, because you really clearly you understand the industry very well. So that's an awesome thing.
Thank you.
And then, so for our last question, it is, what advice would you give to the current generation of high school students that would like to start this process of trying to make a positive impact on society? And how would you recommend that they start this?
It took me 10 years after college to start. I wish I had started earlier. On the other hand, I value the experience that I brought, right? I probably, if I had not had the experience in coffee, the result of what I'm doing could be different.
Right.
But it probably didn't, I didn't need 10 years, probably 5 years or 3 years would have been enough. So first of all, I think it's important, to go to college and get education, right? I think we should not, I mean, there are few cases where, they drop out of college and become very successful, but I mean, I value a lot the education that I received. It's not because of the diploma that you get at the end, right? It's really the value and the networks that you build. And also, I think I would recommend people to try to do a work of understanding what they really want to achieve, right? I think any idea can be transformed into a successful company if you have enough vision and perseverance, right? There will be a lot of obstacles along the way. So you have to be sure that the goal that you're trying to achieve is something that really resonates with who you are. And that would be the key ingredient for success. Right. Because if it's not something you really believe on, at the first big obstacle that you have, most likely you will drop out of your venture. So spend time in really thinking what you want and gather some experience that helps you to get the elements to be successful, right? Work for a company that does something similar in a similar sector. Invest some time in making sure that once you decide to take the big step to do it, you're well prepared. But don't overthink and do it fast, right? Do it soon. Don't wait for too long. And I think the resources. I mean, I have done all of what I've built, with few savings that I had and mostly with resources from Acumen and other donors that that help us to build infrastructure in the regions. So never get stopped by money. If money is the issue, is because probably your idea is not built well enough to attract investors. So never be concerned about not having the cash to start something, because if once the business plan is put together and it's consistent, there are plenty of people wanting to invest in a good idea, in a very energetic entrepreneur.
Thank you. Yeah, and it was amazing hearing your story today, and thank you for the advice at the end.
No, I was really pleased to talk to you, and wish you all the best, and thank you for inviting me.